1 minute, folks. I did not see it.
Don't need to check golf course. Do you think that'll work?
They're shooting.
Oh.
Paintball.
Okay, let's call to order the Finance Committee of the Midland Board of Commissioners. We have 3 action items. The first, let me just state here, this is more people than we've ever had, I believe, at a subcommittee hearing, and I'm glad for that. I'm glad everybody's engaged. I'm gonna, a couple of ground rules here. I think we're gonna have public comment first, and that can be on anything on the agenda or not on the agenda. But we are gonna try and limit that to 3 minutes. I'm not gonna time it. Okay. But I just wanna respect the fact that folks are here. Again, we're not gonna be debating this, but if you'd like to make a comment, come on up, your name, your address, in 3 minutes. And again, we're gonna do that overall right now, on anything on the agenda or on the agenda. So look.
Does that mean you're also gonna have another portion after they speak about what's on the agenda for the public to be able to comment also? Or is this the only time you're gonna allow public comment?
It was my intent to only allow half. Would you like to have?
I think it would be better after they speak about what's on the agenda so that they can actually comment on it.
All right, I'm gonna, I get it. So I'm gonna shift it all to the end then. I don't wanna have two sessions. So I'm gonna have public comment.
Can we have 2 sessions? Cause maybe it might help you answer some questions for later.
No, I'm taking privilege here of calling for public comment at the very end. I think it's compelling what you said about commenting at the end, so let's do that. And with that, let's go into the agenda.
Do you have microphones? Cause I can I'm sorry, I apologize, I can barely hear back here.
It's hard to hear you, Scott.
Is it real?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, you're real quiet.
Yep.
I will try.
You'll have to drop your audio.
Oh, yeah. Is that any better?
Yeah.
No, they're all that.
It's
They're all
guys
on.
that I'm worried about. Can you hear me?
And now, thank you.
Okay. Okay, the first is item number 1, consideration of a resolution adopting plan of financing Poor Lakes Special Assessment District, and I'm not gonna read the whole thing. I think you all see the agenda, and David, do you wanna come up and address the subcommittee?
Yeah, thanks for inviting us here, inviting yourself.
Can we turn that microphone on too, please? I'm sorry.
So, it doesn't have a question.
Jess is also a roadie.
Yeah.
We're gonna take one.
That sounds,
Okay, we are now?
is that okay now, back there?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so, we did have a review with both boards we're having, so, lab one today, we met this morning, and then, we'll meet, we're going to the finance committee for our board, review on next week, I think, on the 5th. Just put it in perspective on the resolution that we'll be asking on the 15th. In May 2020, we provided a restoration plan after the feasibility study that we looked at the alternatives of either finishing the stabilization and recovery or going towards the reconstruction of the dams and the restoration of the or the alternative of removing them. The alternative to removing them in the study was about $125 million, and the restoration program was about $250 million. Actually, it was 215 is the current construction planning. We had a $25 million kind of risk adjusted, and then we had 10 million that we needed to get through financing of USDA fund for 2022. And that's where the $10 million later. So that, so we're not audited. We have to go through a set of public hearings to get financial plan lined up, and to get appropriate financing. We have to have the county approve the financial plan, and not, and then, the specific, grant that will run the state of Michigan. So when we put the plan together, we had several funds, we were qualified for USDA financing. But we were looking at the special assessment as a source of funds, and we were looking at the state of Michigan as a source of funds, as well as the federal government. And in that program, we showed a ratio to get the affordable, in a number that would be somewhere between $75 million and $140 million, or $50 million of state grants, would bring it into a different level of finance, still with financing. When we announced that, I think we communicated to the counties, we communicated to the public. Legislative leaders heard that. A bill is going to Congress today. That's in Senate. The Senate approved it. There's negotiations occurring now between the House, Senate, and Governor staff to approve some level of financing. We believe that will be done based on discussion by the end of the month. And so what came into play here is we had laid out this 10 million. We're getting close to the point where we're running out of cash to fund, to basically continue the operations. And the state funding may in fact be granted this month, but we won't have the cash to do that. So we're assuming it will take a month or two of kind of administrative costs. So this is approving the overall financial plan we've already laid forward. We are going through days of hearings now, which are informal structures to communicate to the community what their property and benefits are and the methodology, so we can feed that into eventually we'll come back to a day of hearing with the community, and then a review and approval by both boards for the financing, the special assessment going forward on operations. And if we get the kind of funding that we expect from the state, we probably won't have a capital assessment for a couple of years, but we feel obligated that once we get the state funding, we kind of put together what we estimate the capital funding will be, and that'll come out at that time as well. So what we're asking for here is approval of the finance committee to review, for the board to take it under consideration, approve the financing plan, and then also approve this grant anticipation note. Specifically, we will only issue that note if we get to the point where the state legislature has approved the allocation and the governor's approved it, and we know the grant's there, then we will use that note to fund cash flow until we get to the point of the funds coming into the house. If we don't get the state grants, then we're gonna have a big meeting and figure out how to restructure and look at going from then on. But we have pretty confidence we want to get there. So that's kind of what we need to do. If you need kind of explanation on kind of the good faith credit and the financial aspect, Joe Claney's here as our attorney, but also as a bond attorney. We're certainly happy to answer any questions that you have of either Tim or I.
Dave, can you just help me out with the, when do you expect to run out of cash? What's the drop dead date where we actually have to pull the switch on the fire?
So the thing with the cash is we told by the end of April, by the end of March, going into April, we have to kind of know what we're doing. That doesn't mean that we run out of all the cash. We have operational funds to continue the effort. If we don't have state funds, we're gonna have to look at interim financing to probably deal with Edenville and Sanford. But the one area that we have these dam stabilization programs on. Those have federal funds associated with them. They require, we've been dependent on state matching grants. If we don't get a grant, restructure and reboot, if you will, and we'll have cash to do that. We try to keep enough reserve. We'll still go through the special assessment district. We've got a line of credit that covers the special or operational costs until we get that funding. And we have enough to finish up some of the work that we've got going, but we're gonna have to bridge over to another source. So, if we get the state funding and, it takes 60 to 90 days, it's just a little problematic to not have the cash. We certainly don't wanna have contractors out there with federal funds committed without a state matching grant. And that's kind of the dilemma we're in a little bit.
And one other thing, so, and maybe this is best addressed with the lawyer, but the actual, application for funding, bonding, at what point can you pull out of that?
Well, so what we would do, so we're not trying to hold anybody hostage, you know, we're just trying to say, hey, we're trying to be prudent to have a bridge, you know?
Yeah.
And so I would say that if, you know, so appropriations and state appropriation get locked in pretty early, once it's approved and the government signs it, it's kind of there, right? And so, but you have to go to Treasury and get the process going, and that could take a month, it could take 3 months. And so we just wanna make sure we're bridging through that, so we don't anticipate we would, spend all that money, but I don't wanna kinda, you know, that we would even issue that much amount, but we want that much amount because it covers through 2022. And we have a state commitment, but we're still going through some grant process or procedure that they put together. I wanna just make sure we get 2022 without having those kind of issues. If we get the state funding and it's immediately available, then we won't issue the notes. If we don't get the state funding, then we won't issue the notes, because we'll go forward and look at it. But if we know that there's a gap, that's where we're gonna issue some or part of the, or all.
Good. Jeanette, Eric, questions?
Dave, you started your talk off, I believe I heard this correctly, to remove the dams, which would be $125
Yeah.
million?
115.
So basically to do nothing, it's still gonna cost us a heck of a lot of money.
Well, you've got a lot of rivers there.
Oh, right,
We're
no,
gonna
I'm
have a
not-
significant amount of environmental remediation if we don't
Right.
put the water back on it. And you have to take the embankments out, you can't leave infrastructure long-term unless somebody wants to pay to run and maintain that. But those dams as they exist today, you know, we've gone through stabilization phase to kind of bring it right, but ultimately you have to say, somebody's gonna have, that wouldn't be, by the way, the homeowners, on the lake, the special assessment district wouldn't deal with the removal of the dam, because they're not getting any benefit from that. So that would be a burden on the state or the county or whatever. So when we looked at the option, and that was kind of our, kind of ask to the state was, hey, you know, this is a big environmental challenge and a big economic impact that was created by a private owner and a, federally regulated structure that got passed over, didn't get passed over. And so we don't think that, you know, everybody should pay for everything, but we recognize that long term is gonna have to be some payment because the power structure is kind of gone, the power revenue structure is gone, it wasn't adequate anyway to cover all the costs, and we're gonna have to have that kind of structure in place.
Okay. Jeanette, any further questions?
Can I ask my questions?
Okay. Anything else, Eric? I would entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Support.
Been moved and supported. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Thanks, David.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. You guys are gonna hang around till the end, right?
Sure.
These next two, I don't
Always
think.
interested in your meetings, John.
I thought you might be. Okay, let's move on to number 2, and do we have John on the line?
Yes, sir. Can you hear me?
Hey, John Schmoody, how you doing?
I'm very good, sir. Thank you.
You wanna tell us about this grant from Michigan Natural Resources Fund?
Certainly, thank you. First off, good afternoon, and our commission respectfully requests your consideration to submit a $300,000 grant to the Michigan Natural Resources Trust Fund, which is overseen by the DNR. In a nutshell, it equates to refurbishing the Smith Crossing Historic Bridge, which is a Pratt-style truss bridge the twin span, each span's approximately 150 feet long, and approximately 2,600 linear feet of non-motorized pathway. If I could back up just a moment, this is a piece of a bigger picture. The total project for this is about 4.6 million. It's kind of like a jigsaw puzzle. There's multiple agencies involved, there's multiple funding sources. As far as funding, there's been an MDOT TAP grant submitted. We're hoping to submit this DNR trust fund grant. We have monies that have been allocated from the Iron Bell Committee, Midland Foundations, the Great Lakes Bay Regional Trail Committee, and there's also some non-participating costs from the Midland County Road Commission, specifically within the road right of way. This project was identified many years ago, perhaps 20 years ago. The three counties, Midland, Bay, and Saginaw, got together to develop a tri-county park plan, rail trail plan to connect all three counties. In reality, and I won't say that this will never happen, but in reality, the connection from Saginaw to Bay City is essentially done. This is a key, this bridge itself, the Smith Crossing Bridge is a key to the connection from Midland to Saginaw, and realistically, the connection from Midland to Bay City may never happen. That one's more of an out there project.
What's the challenge?
So that's
there,
ever,
John?
yeah,
What's the challenge?
the challenge is, building a trail within an active railroad right away. And so that's been hashed around for several years. I won't say that it will never happen, but at this point, this seems to be the more logical, option. Like I said earlier, this is one piece of the puzzle as far as making this connection, and this is the max that we can ask of the state, $300,000. But like I said, there's multiple agencies involved here, and this specific grant would only address two things: the bridge and like I said, a small amount of the pathway on either side of the bridge when this is actually done. The reconstruction of the bridge is going to be fairly elaborate. It requires actually lifting both spans off of the two abutments in the center pier, rehabbing them on shore, redecking them, etc., and then rebuilding and refurbishing the abutments and the center piling. So it's fairly it's fairly involved to make this happen. But it's a significant structure, and again, this has been identified for many years as a key link. I guess there's several pluses with this, but certainly I would think from Midland County's perspective, there's no local match required for Midland County, and there's no obligation for Midland County to maintain it. The actual maintenance will be done by the Midland County Road Commission. So we are essentially, if you do approve this and move it forward to the board next week, we are essentially the sponsoring entity for this grant, and there's really no other obligation required of us.
Okay, questions, Eric, Jeanette? Questions?
I'm good on the park.
Hey, John, was the previous Smith Road Crossing Bridge a Pratt Truss Bridge?
Yeah, the existing structure is a Pratt Truss Bridge. Yep.
There's not much left to that, though.
Correct. Yeah, I've never ventured beyond the barricades. It looks pretty dicey.
Well, I used to.
Yeah.
Hey, John, you mentioned the total project cost of 4.6 million.
Mhm.
How much of that is secured right now?
I don't have that breakdown in front of me, but I can provide that if this gets forwarded to the full board next Tuesday. We will have a planner from Spicer that can provide a very brief synopsis of the property, or the project rather, and I can get back, or I can email everyone tomorrow when I get back, if you'd like.
I'm just trying to find out, is this 80% funded already?
Oh, I honestly, boy, it's a great question, but I don't know.
All right.
Sorry.
Can you bring that information with you next week?
Yep, absolutely, yes, sir.
Bridget?
John is having a public hearing on the 15th at the beginning of our meeting, so he can include that information.
Right.
Yeah, And thanks, Bridget, for mentioning that. In reality, it's not a huge difference, but it's actually not even, it's just a meeting. It's the only requirement now for these trust fund grants is just a public meeting and a resolution of support.
Right,
And I was gonna work that out with Jessica when I get back, so.
sounds good. Any further questions? I'd entertain a motion to approve this.
Move to approve.
Moved and supported. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Okay, that passes. Let's move on to number 3.
Thanks, John.
Thank you.
Hey, John, thank you. Enjoy.
Thanks. Yep, well, thank you.
Administrator Controller submits recommendation for ARPA premium pay lump sums for county employees. Bridget, are you on?
I am.
Okay,
So this has been discussed with the commissioners, and this is just a formal request to put this in front of the board. This would be, as you've read, for the non-bargain for and elected officials only, countywide elected officials only, and would come from a combination of ARPA money directly, and then also, a portion would be applied to the revenue loss category of our ARPA money. Anything that, if the board approves this, then I would authorize the HR director to negotiate with the unions for the same thing.
and that must be done.
Yes, has to be.
Okay. Questions? And I think I know the answer to this when you said countywide elected officials. Yeah. And it's not us.
Not us.
I understand. Okay, questions?
That was one of my questions. I guess it's not a big deal.
Okay, I'm not in a position to, put that forward. Okay,
I have no further questions or concerns. Move to approve 16-3-22.
Support.
moved and supported. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. And that passes. Yeah, that passes. Okay, let's move on now to public comments, and we will accept public comments on anything on the agenda.
Address this. Address this.
Okay, do we have that?
The screen's not
Well,
working.
the screen was dark on me, but it's here on mine.
Okay. Kelly, you wanna start?
Start my time clock, it's the podium and start. Kelly Daxmore, Michigan, I own on Tobacco River. The meeting that was held on 3/3/22 was held illegally. It was called a TEFRA meeting. Four Lakes Task Force did not appropriately notify the public within a timely manner, the time frame. They changed a first quarter board meeting to a public hearing, and then from a public hearing to a TEFRA hearing. They have to do that, and they have to give you 7 days notice, they only gave 4. So with that being said, that meeting should be null and void, and you should have to start all over again. So now you've been put on notice, just like I did with Adams County Commissioners. Dave Kepler told Ron Taylor today, Commissioner Taylor and Commissioner Rick Rowe, that if the state comes through with the money, that this pledge that you're making, that's how it will be taken care of. If the state does not come through with the money, they will not uphold your pledge, you're gonna be free and clear. That was what he stated on the public record, that there'll be no money taken, nothing put on a special assessment district. As far as the original SAD, it dissolved. When the dams failed, the lakes were gone, there's nothing to level. The SAD that they're trying to rebuild was to maintain the lake level, not build new dams. There's laws in the books that says that you have a certain time frame, you have to make a dam viable again. They haven't even received permits to even build a dam yet, only work on the berms. So they haven't fulfilled the law. And then as far as, they don't wanna tear the dams down and charge the people because it's not a benefit. If you look at their website and you use their numbers, it will cost me more in taxes than it did for the property that I originally bought. How is that a benefit to me? To put back a lake that was there when I bought and then charge me more money, twice the amount of money in taxes than what the property is worth. That's illegal. And when we do this without a vote of the people, no millage, You are, in essence, voting for me in proxy. I don't give my votes away. My vote is my vote. You have not asked me, you have not asked the county, because you say if it goes to a millage, it won't pass. Well, who are you? Are you communism? Are you dictators that you get to decide for the whole county what we're gonna pay? What you get to do to my property? I say no, you don't have that jurisdiction over me. There's lawyers that sit here that know that I'm right in what I'm saying. So, with no millage and no vote of the people, you cannot make this kind of decision. Today, Loudoun County Commissioners passed it 4-1. I told them when they did it, they broke the law. I'm telling you right now, if you vote on something like this that causes this much detriment, there was never a foreclosure study that was done. And they did it, they went ahead with this anyways. No foreclosure study. They don't even know the feasibility. No engineering studies done. They're running cart before the horse. They've done it over and over. Dave Kepler has a bad record as far as over expenditures. H-Dow Hotel is a perfect example. So, with that being said, think about that, because your bond that you swore an oath on was for the people of the public, not for the corporations. Thank you.
Any other public comment on anything in the agenda?
I live up on Sanford Lake, been there for 20 years.
What's your name?
Pardon me?
Your name?
Mark Schneider. Hi. I'd just like to say, one thing about this, open checkbook that you're giving these people, build a lake. They've never built a lake before in their life, they've destroyed one, 2 or 3, but they haven't built one, and you're giving them an open check to do this. Ask consumers power what their open check did with Bechtel back in the 80s with their nuke plant. Did they ever get it? No. They bought when it broke. But at least they had money to get the recovery on. We don't. Just think about that, guys. This is illegal.
Thank you. Any other, public comment? Any other public comment? Dave?
I don't wanna reply, but, what we'll do for follow-up, first of all, I like the Ace Hotel, first star, very good asset for the city of Midland.
I'm sorry, but I can't hear this. I'm sorry.
The, legal opinion brought forward, we'll summarize that in the legal, we won't comment on it today, I don't think it's appropriate without that, we've heard the accusations, and we'll respond before the meeting, back to legal counsel and the positions to do it, we're pretty confident we're doing this in opinion. So I just wanna bring that.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear any of that. I could not hear it. I'm
Can you
sorry.
repeat?
We can't hear
I
it.
said we weren't gonna respond to the legal points, but we'll have a review
Which
with
legal
our
points?
legal attorney, the ones you made. We'll have that we were doing this illegally, that we would have a write-up from Joe responding to your points. And we provide it to, county councils, and you get that.
I'd like to rebut.
No, this is not a rebut, there. you
As
have
far
one
as the
chance.
SAD goes, if they
No,
wanna
please
use
sit
the
down.
original SAD, if they wanna rebut and use the original SAD, in that you can only ask for 10% more from the original asset you were asking. They originally asked for $30 million over 20 years.
Please
Now
sit
they
down,
want
Kelly.
300 million. So they can't even do that legally. Thank
I'd
you.
entertain a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, this meeting is adjourned.